Live now. Welcome.
Wait. 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Reproductive Health Concerns and Regulation. So, good evening, and before we start the webinar, I would like to thank whoever is watching this webinar or whoever is attending this webinar. I hope you would like whatever we are trying to uh, bring out through this webinar. And before coming to what is this webinar all about, I just want to introduce the whole team and us. So a big hi, a big hello from Hidden Pockets Collective. So we are a platform for sexual and reproductive health for women. We have a care line, a WhatsApp number, which runs across the country in India. And we have many young people coming and asking us questions related to sexual and reproductive health. So these young people are about 18, and they are people who have, the first time college goers, and people who are not only from cities but people from outside cities, tier 1, tier 2 cities also. And we also get queries from other nations, other countries also outside India. But right now we focus only in India, and we provide information to all young people about sexual and reproductive health. So that's Hidden Pockets. And under Hidden Pockets, we also have a small trust where we try to collect a lot of information related to sexual and reproductive health and provide it to all young people and everyone out there. So under this trust part, we also go to colleges and schools and communities and talk about sexual and reproductive health for women. So we chose this webinar is specifically for Christ University, Bangalore. And we specifically chose Bangalore and this college and this area because we are seeing an increase of number from Bangalore city, Karnataka, and we thought it would be very important to go to colleges and start talking, start having a conversation around sexual and reproductive health. And why we chose Christ, because Christ being one of the most, it is one of the famous colleges in Bangalore, and we have a lot of students there. And also we have been part of Christ last year, and for many years we have been a part of Christ University, and we actually have gone to them where we spoke about little parts of sexual and reproductive health. So we thought, let's have a webinar where we can open up and we can talk to students and we can provide information to students. So who am I? I am Aisha Lovely George, and I am the executive coordinator and counselor at Hidden Pockets. And I take care of all the programs we have, and also the care line, the WhatsApp care line we are taking care of. And then we also have Jasmine George, who is the founder, and also she's also a lawyer. So she would be, after I finish, she would be continuing with the webinar. Then we also have Adira with us, who is the digital campaign coordinator of Hidden Pockets, and she would be taking care of any technical things on the webinar and if somebody's joining or if any questions come up. So this is the team, and this is Hidden Pockets, and this is what we do. So before we start the other part of the webinar, I would love to give our referral number, our care line number, so that if by chance you are in some problem related to sexual and reproductive health, you can always message us. You can get to the care line WhatsApp, and we will try to help you and try to put you with doctors or lawyers or counselors who can help you and guide you. So the number is 886-171-3567. For convenience, we would be writing this number on the chat box and everybody can go through it and see it. So that's a brief introduction about us. And now I would like to call Jasmine to go ahead with the webinar.
Thank you, Aisha. I can already see some students have started joining us. So, hello, everybody who have joined us from Christ University. We are doing a webinar today on reproductive health, and Aisha has already mentioned about what Hidden Pockets does. We are a platform for sexual and reproductive health in India. And now we have been running a care line and we have been doing social conversations for some time. So, one thing that we realized was whenever we talk about reproductive health in India, there seems to be a confusion about what is reproductive health. So, people are either just talking about menstruation or people are just talking about pregnancy as though nothing else happens. And whereas most of the young people who have been coming to us on the care line, they have a range of issues, they have a range of confusions, a range of questions, whether if getting pain during the periods, is it like normal? Is it that I have some pain in my uterus? Is that normal? Can I get these service in a public health center? Is it legal? So all those questions. So we have been noticing and we have realized that it's important to talk about what all options do young people have in India, and especially the fact that the basket of choices is only not for married people. We also wanted to ensure that we talk about single people and talk about what all options a young person has when they go to a hospital, when they go to a clinic. And also, one of the aspects of Hidden Pockets is that we do help young people with unwanted pregnancy also. So a lot many times when you're not ready, when you're not emotionally ready, not financially ready, what happens is that if you get pregnant, you really don't know where to go. So at Hidden Pockets, we really help young people with counseling. We provide them with legal medical counseling and tell them what are their options. So in our mind, abortion is also part of that reproductive health, that if your body is going through some changes, how do you go about making those choices? How do you go about making those decisions? So abortion is also part of this. So in the bigger frame, what is reproductive health? Anything that a person, any gender who's going through in their reproductive organs, and how do they take care of it? So at Hidden Pockets, that's something we have been doing. We do primarily work with all genders. We try our level best to ensure that we connect people to right, affordable, non-judgmental services in their city. So that's something we have been really focusing on. But in the long term, the idea is to ensure that we are able to talk about everything that comes under sexual and reproductive health. So that's what our today's focus is about, trying to figure out what is reproductive health and what are some of the queries that people have been asking us. I can see a lot of men also joining today's call. So please do realize that most of our clients on our care line number are actually men who come asking for their partners, like my partner or my girlfriend is pregnant, what should I do? My my sister is going through this, how can I help her? Or I myself have some issues with my sexual health. So please do focus on your health. Please do use our care line number. Adra has already posted it on the comment section. But yeah, please do remember Hidden Pockets is a platform. So if you ever feel uncomfortable or if you ever feel lost, you can talk to us.
Okay, Jasmine. Now we come to a part where we should know why it is very important, or why should we talk about this topic at all. I mean, why reproductive health under this whole huge sky? Why are we talking about sexual and reproductive health? So, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but when we look at a woman's body, I mean, there are few places in a woman's body which is judged, and the biggest part which is judged, like, like too much, is the uterus of a woman. I mean, if you see the body of a woman, nowhere nowhere in the body you will see a law attached to a woman's body, but in uterus, I know it is sounds very bad and very awkward, but to be very honest, uterus is a place which has law attached to it. I mean, we have MTP Act which talks about, pregnant. How do you end unwanted pregnancy? So that's how a woman's body is, seen. Like we have different parts of the body and how it's seen and judged. So uterus is very important, and but the whole problem is nobody talks about it. Nobody takes a pride, and nobody takes that enthusiasm to talk about some a woman's um, uterus. If you see a man's body, there's no part which is, if, there are no laws related to any parts yet. But yeah, but for women we have it. So I want to talk about the stigma and the taboo which is attached to this topic, and which makes it very difficult for anyone to talk about what's happening to the uterus, what's happening, what problems are they facing. For example, when you have to talk about your heart, if you have heart pain, you can just tell to your friend or to your family. You can just directly tell, I have some issues, I'm going through some pain. You can just go to a doctor and just openly tell the doctor that you have this pain. And any other organs, if you take a kidney, you take your liver, anything. But when it comes to your uterus, it becomes very secretive. It becomes very hush. You don't loudly announce it to the world like you have a heart pain. You don't announce it that something is really wrong unless you have reached a point where you are not scared of anyone, or you're not scared of the judgments people will make. Especially when we talk about single women there, young girls there, single women where who are not treated as somebody who would be sexually active. So there's a taboo. We are taught how we have to be good girls, how we have to be always taking care of the temple being our body. So in that scenario, if somebody talks about a single woman, a very young woman who is not supposed to have sex before getting married, it becomes a very scary scene. How will people, how will young women come out and talk? So it's very important for organizations and people who have, who have knowledge about it, who have expertise around it, to come out and speak for these young women and for single ladies and women in general who want help in uh, you know help. They want help when it comes to sexual and reproductive health. That's why it's very important to talk about such topics in colleges, in schools, and in informal events, or address young adults, people, that okay, this is a topic and this is very important and we have to talk about it. And because we run the care line, we get a lot of young people coming to the care line talking to us about, okay, I don't know, my period's not coming, I don't know what's happening to my body, I have to go get abortion, I have no clue. So when we're talking to them, we can understand that this person has no clue about her uterus, this person has no clue about the medicines she has to take, this person has no clue how the uterus functions. An organ, uterus, who's functioning every day, every month, it's gonna bleed, and the person has no clue about it, shows that where are we? Why are we not talking about it? And it's a very important, a very important part of your body, a very important organ of your body, and you have no clue about it. So it, because of the taboo and the stigma, nobody opens up and tells you what's happening to your body. That's why when young people come to the care line and they're like, okay, now I'm pregnant, I don't want to continue with the pregnancy, I want to have abortion, I'm going to eat any pills people will give me. So that's scary. That can end up in a very sad situation. So that's why it's very important to talk about sexual and reproductive health in a younger crowd, in college setup, with younger people and people who are sexually active, even people who are not, because this information is very important for everyone. And also, because now we are in COVID era, I would say call it COVID era, where when we talk about health, everything goes to coronavirus. If you have headache, if you have breathing issues, if you have fever, then you are important. Then you can go to the hospital. Then somebody will give you some importance. So, but if you have some issues with your uterus, some vaginal infection you have, you're not in priority list at all. I mean, that can wait. That can, you can deal with it later. So, before coronavirus also, we were very behind. Nobody gave importance to it unless you're married and your in-laws are pressurizing you to get a baby. Then maybe you will take some energy to go and check out on what's happening with your reproductive health. But until then you are not bothered. I mean, if everything is functioning, you're fine. Nobody goes for regular checkup. Even before the COVID time, this organ was given not given any importance, and was seen with a very sad and you know a very untouchable attitude. And now after COVID, I would say it has add on to the pain. Because right now, if you are going through, you want abortion and you go to hospitals, they would give you a weird look. I mean, they would be like, here people are dying out of coronavirus and you come here for abortion. I mean, seriously. So that it has added to the pain. So it becomes very important at this time specifically to talk about this thing and to provide information to young people about what's happening to your body, what's happening with your uterus, how you can keep yourself safe, and what all you have to do during this period. So that's why this topic is really important at this time.
Like Aisha mentioned, I think so. The reproductive health in general is a very difficult topic, and often what happens is this topic is only reserved for women. So everybody, and when I say women, again, there's this image of a cisgendered women. So when anybody else, we think about other genders, we think about including men, we think about including trans community. Nobody really talks about their health, and this is why we don't have other people taking any kind of they don't think it's their issue. So even this is something we have realized on our care line also, that often we have young boys, we have young men, young partners who are coming on the care line and asking that we don't know what to do. We really want to help, but we really don't know. And this is because often, even from the childhood, boys are always kept away from any conversations around, be it periods, be it menstruation, be it reproductive health, be it any kind of pain. Men, boys are generally always kept aside, so they have no clue. So everything is just kept away, and women or people of other genders, they just live their life in secrecy. So what is really important is in the reproductive health conversations to engage more and more gender, and ensure that we start talking about health, even reproductive health, from a more comprehensive manner. Whose health are we talking about? Who gets to benefit out of it? Who are these people? Be it straight men, be it transgender community, be it people of other genders. Whose body are we really going to talk about, and why is it important? Because what we are doing is, when we're looking around all these violence, all these issues around young boys creating these WhatsApp groups, these locker rooms where they're only talking about themselves and their own little groups, it's because they haven't really been exposed, educated, or even talked about. Nobody really talks to a young man or a boy. Like recently, I was having a conversation with a friend where I asked them, where did you learn about relationships? And the answer was, I learned it from online, internet. How to talk to a girl, how to take care of my partner. Everything was learned by online. And I was so surprised that an issue as important as having a relationship, having a partner, and who are you learning it from strangers, from internet, from Google search, people who don't even really care about, people who don't even see you, people who don't even know what are you going through. Because in our education system, we don't talk about these things. Even when we talk about menstruation, it's still periods, something that happens, gets over. We don't see from a health perspective, don't see it from a social health perspective. So it's very important to include boys, it's very important to include men in these conversations, very important to have more and more people, I mean, people from other genders, communities, communities to come join these conversations, only because otherwise we'll always be talking in silos, in small compartments, that cisgendered women will only talk about their health, male people will only talk about their health, transgender community will only talk about their health, and we'll not be able to help each other. So on our care line, we take a very holistic approach. We approach care, health from a care perspective, where we want people to think of health in terms of care. That if I love someone, if I care about somebody, then I have to respond to their health issue as my own. I have to ensure that how do I make their lives a lot more easier. And for us to even start having these conversations, it's very important to include boys, young boys, as early as, I would say, 7 or 8, to start talking about the changes these boys are observing around, and not to just shut them away. Otherwise, in the long run, we will be seeing violence, and we'll always remain confused that why is that boys don't feel anything, why is that boys are feeling doing all this to fellow human beings, why is that boys are not able to associate with other genders. So it's very important, and this is something even on our care line we have noticed. So please do educate your partners, your friends, your people from other gender who are interested and who you think are confused, or maybe they don't know the right words. But it's our duty, and this is something at Hidden Pockets. We take education, public education, very seriously. And if you're interested in joining these conversations, please do follow us on our social media. We are very active on this front.
So, like Jasmine said, how it is important, how it is very important to include everyone when we talk about menstruation, when we talk about concern related to menstruation. It's not like only just because uterus is there in women, that's why only women have to take care of it. If you are looking for a very healthy life as partners, as couples, as somebody who wants to grow with couples, I think it's high time even men start looking at this as their problem. Like, this is related to me. If something happens tomorrow to my partner or my couple, I would be I will be tensed and something will happen to me. So we have to look in that lenses. Only then I think there will be some help, because women cannot. I mean, not women. I mean, we cannot operate alone. We have to operate with support and system, with the society, with the community, with everyone around. So now we come to the topic where we talk about mental health and we talk about reproductive health. So mental health and reproductive health are totally, completely connected to each other. I mean, I would say mental health and reproductive health, the base for both is hormones. Hormones control everything. Hormones go up and down, your mental health goes up and down, your reproductive health goes up and down. So base is common, hormones, and both can affect each other badly and completely. For example, if mental health is not well, your mental health is not well, you're going through anxiety, that means many times, most of the times, you will see women missing out their periods, women not getting their periods on time, women having very different kind of blood flow, because they had anxiety. So the hormone playing game there. Next, if we talk about reproductive health, if your reproductive health goes off, then your mental health, I mean, women would agree, if we don't have our periods on time, if we don't have correct color for our periods, we don't get the exact same periods which we got last month, we freak out. I mean, that's the most scariest part, like what's happening with my body. And I think that's the point where we think, okay, I should meet the doctor. So we wait for something to go wrong to meet the doctor for our our uterus. So they are highly connected with each other. So when we don't get periods, we are like sad. We are not sad, we are scared to, like, why it's happening. And if we are sexually active, then we take 1,000 tests, we go for 1,000 blood tests, paying a lot of money, because a blood test costs a lot. And if I talk about Bangalore, it costs more than 500 bucks. So we go for blood test, we take home, a pregnancy test, and we go crazy. looking out what's happening and why am I not getting it. And if we get it, that is also a big problem. We have to hide it. We can't tell everyone, telling that, I'm on a periods. Now we have reached a point where women are free, telling each other in their workplaces that I have my periods, that's why I'm not able to do it, or I'm not feeling well. But most of the women, I would say 80% of women still can't speak when they have periods, and none of the house members also know that they have periods. Their sons, their daughters might know, but the sons won't have any clue that the mother is going through something. And the boys grow up thinking that my mother never complained, she was always happy. So we haven't reached that point where everybody is free about this topic and talks about that I have periods. So even that gives us stress. So if you have periods and if by mistake somebody sees blood on the washroom, I will freak out. That fear of, oh shit, two people will get to know, my son will get to know, my somebody will get to know, gives us a lot of anxiety. And that is somewhere affecting your mental health and your period cycle, your menstrual cycle. So they are highly connected with each other. So we also did one study where we studied the role of these menstrual related cultural practices on well-being of women. So how these cultural practices, for example, cultural practices like in many households, when the girl has periods, she should not touch anyone at home. She should be sitting in a corner and eating, not touching the vessels. Should be sleeping in another place. So we have a lot of cultural practices related to menstruation. So we did this study to ask how did women feel when they were treated in such a way, and uh, they were treated like this from the age of 10, starting from 10. So imagine if I am treated like this from 10 to 30, it's conditioning in my mind that it has to be like this. So it does affect the mental health of the person completely. I mean, body shaming, self-esteem, fear, depression, anxiety, everything is so connected with each other that if your reproductive health goes off, or if somebody gets to know you have periods, or if somebody tells you are the you are so impure during your periods, it does something to your mental health. You start believing that you're not good enough, you don't have good body image about yourself, you have fear, you have anxiety. So they both are highly connected to each other. So if we have to improve one, we cannot improve one and the other not other. We have to, it has to work together. Your mental health has to be very it has to be in a certain level to get your reproductive health in line. Your reproductive health should be in line so that your mental health is in line. And for that, how will you get all these things in line? Only when you have information about your body, your uterus, what's happening during menstruation. And also men, I mean, your mothers, your sisters, your friends, your girlfriends are there. And like Jasmine said, I think it's high time when we start asking them and learning for them. They have already they have a lot of work to do. Multitasking, women are multitasking. During COVID, it has added on. Everything has been added on. Too much of work now. People don't go to offices; they are working from home. Women are also working from home, doing all these things. And then we have reproductive health and mental health. So I think how can we get some nice feeling about all these topics is only when we start to know what is happening with us, what is happening to our reproductive health, what are the laws related to it. Because it's not that you can't just say that, oh, I'm not pregnant so I don't have to care about the laws. You might not be pregnant today, but you might be tomorrow. You might have a sister, you might have a girlfriend who's not pregnant today, might be pregnant tomorrow, or might have some issues tomorrow. So it's always good to learn for others also, so that if something happens you can help. And coming back to the COVID, during COVID time, I think it's high time we all have to support each other, learn for each other, and tell each other like this is the way how we can go forward. This is the way how we can have some peace at home. So that's why I think this session was very important to speak about this topic, especially to a younger crowd, because, like I said, if nobody speaks about it, it will add on to the fear, and it will completely mess with our mental health.
So there's often this belief that Aisha also mentioned that in the beginning that if when we are talking about laws around reproductive health, the only law is MTP, which is Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. Whereas we really don't have clarity about what is the law on single women who are pregnant. Often on our care line, we realize that everybody who comes to us, they keep saying that abortion is illegal. So everybody is thinking, oh, it's illegal. Single women in this country, we can't access any reproductive health services. Or can single women of a certain age, can they ask for long-term contraception services? Or can they go for emergency contraceptive pills? Is it allowed to be bought? So the problem is, when we talk about reproductive health, often because we associate it with marriage, and we assume that people who are having sex or people who are getting pregnant are only married people, they don't need a law. And that's why there's a lot of confusion, and there's actually ignorance around what is the state. So even when we're talking about laws, people always think that there is no law, and there is it's a private affair. It doesn't need to have a law. Whereas on our care line, we have noticed that we have a lot of single people who have relationship with their partners, who get pregnant, and then they don't know what to do, because in their head they think it's illegal. So now they think it's illegal. So now instead of going to a right hospital or a right clinic, what they do is they end up being with a quack. So at Hidden Pockets, we really make it very important to make it understand to people that legal counseling is very important. It's not just enough for young people to go get health or just go to a doctor and somehow get it. It's important to understand that what is your right, what is a positive right. Do you have a right to go to hospital? Do you have a right to get a good service? Do you have a right to be treated well? Do you have a right to go to a public health center and say that I would like to have condoms and or emergency contraceptive pills? Do we have a right? Because once we understand our right, and once we understand that these are positive rights, when I say positive rights, basically rights that government have decided that we should ensure that our citizens should have it. So during Corona, one of the biggest problem was that nobody knew that can you go to a hospital for your reproductive health checkup. It was very clearly said that for women who were pregnant or who were lactating, they were told that for some time you don't have to regularly come for a checkup. But what about single women who were pregnant and who didn't want to have continue this pregnancy? What about single women who suddenly developed health infections, sexual health infections? Anyways, these topics, even though we have a law, people have no clarity about what is the stance on these issues. Corona and COVID just made it 100 times more difficult. So it's very important to talk about reproductive health laws. Very important to talk about what are some of the laws. Because even in a law school, I myself am a lawyer, and we never really had specific subjects around reproductive health laws. Because again, like I said, it's a private affair, it's a private matter, people will figure it out. Like I said sometime back, if people are learning about relationships on internet and going and forming a relationship without any idea, people are handling their mental health issues. Like we just had a very sad story about Sushant Singh, where a person with such a high IQ was not able to talk about his own depression to people, even though he had support, even though he had access to resources. And here we are talking about a topic which is very important. Single women trying to access services, single women trying to access, just go for a health checkup, single women trying to do what are they trying to ask people, and all of them are landing up on internet. So it's very important when if you have friends, if you have young people around you, and who you know are struggling or who are sexually active or who needs help, please refer them to Hidden Pockets, because it's very important to listen to verified sources, to listen to sources which will be non-judgmental, to talk to counselors, to talk to lawyers, to talk to doctors who will be able to understand. Because when we think about menstruation, we all assume that all the women are going through same thing. problem. It's not true. All of us have very different, very, very personal issues, very, very, very something which is very specific to your own body. And even in that case, if you are aware of your loss, you don't have to be worried about going to a doctor and being treated badly. So at Hidden Pockets, we ensure that we are able to provide young people with good referral service, good doctors, a good counseling service so that people don't feel alone. And even if needed, we also provide legal counseling. So, for all the people who had joined this webinar today, thank you so much. Also, people who are watching us on YouTube, if you are leaving your comments in the comment section, we will definitely get back to you. But at the same time, we would just like to talk about our care line, which is a WhatsApp away. So, please, if you're feeling alone or if you need a personalized assistance, please do WhatsApp us on 8861713567. We are just a WhatsApp away. Please don't feel lonely. Please don't feel confused. Please don't drown in the Google information. We all know the amount of information that is there on Google. It can be scary. And anyways, we are so ashamed. And anyways, we are so embarrassed about these topics. So we are here. We are definitely here to do more of these sessions. If any of you who are interested in having us to your community, your colleges, or your smaller groups, we'll be more than happy to have a closed group session. But this session was meant for a public education so that this was just to talk about the small snippets, small concepts around reproductive health, be it menstruation, be it mental health, be it laws, and how can we ensure that all of us create an ecosystem which is supportive in nature. So, thank you all for everybody who has joined us. So, I'll just end the live now. Thank you, everybody.